Okay, before I start, I'd like to ask you a question. Who are lucky enough to have a breakfast before coming here? Can you raise your hand? Okay, like 2000s. And then next question, any of you who didn't finish your breakfast? Come on, make an honest confession. All right, 100 people. All right. So, in 2017, we conducted a simple survey to see the behavior of people in Surabaya in terms of food waste. The chart shows actually a very impressive result. 92% of the respondents believe that food is supposed to be finished. And only 8% of the respondents that believe that it's okay to not finish the food for several reasons. But it gets interesting when it comes to what they really practice in daily life. When they're eating at home, 54% of them tend to finish the food, but remaining 46% tend to leave leftover. And it gets even more interesting, or should I say disappointing, when they're eating outside. As now, only 40% tend to finish the food, and remaining 60% tend to leave leftover. And this is what they've done with the leftover. 43% have it wrapped, donated, or saved for later. But remaining 57% just didn't care, and just throw it away, and it becomes food waste. So in Indonesia, food waste is a serious issue that is not as much discussed and addressed as other types of waste such as plastic waste, for example. Maybe not many of us are even aware that Indonesia is actually the world's second country with the largest food disposal. Can you imagine? Every citizen disposes 300 kilograms of food waste per year, and that puts Indonesia among the lowest performing countries in the effort to reduce food waste. But why bother about food waste? We live in a rich country with such abundant resources, right? Let me guide you through the reason. First one, food waste means economic loss. That's pretty sure. Because when we throw away a plate of food, we basically throw away such amount of money that we used to buy them. But that doesn't mean that when we throw away a portion of nasi pecel, for example, that we buy for 10,000 rupiah, that we only lost the 10,000. It goes way beyond that. Not only we lost 10,000, we also throw away all of the resources needed to produce and to bring the food right in front of you. The economic costs include vast quantities of land, water, seeds, fertilizers used to produce the food that is never eaten, and also labor costs, fuel burned to process, to transport, and to cook the food, and not to mention the cost of municipal solid waste handling as well. Second consequence is its serious environmental impact. Because when food waste breaks down in landfill, it produces methane, a greenhouse emission gas that is 23 times more potent than carbon dioxide and contributes to global warming. In fact, 6.7% of the whole greenhouse emission gas in the world comes from food waste. But what hits me the most is the fact that food waste is also an irony. As on the other side, 19.4 million of people in Indonesia still struggle for food every day. So what came to my mind was, why don't we send this massive amount of food to these people? Why bin it if we can feed people in need? And that's when we came up with Garda Pangan. So having the same concern about food waste phenomenon, two friends and I created Garda Pangan, a food bank in Surabaya. It is also a social enterprise with two big main goals, food waste eradication and at the same time, hunger relief. Our core activity is called food rescue. It is basically picking up unsold food that is still in a perfectly edible condition from our partners in hospitality industries and food businesses that would otherwise go to waste. And we distribute them to those who are food insecure instead. The way we work is by having a partnership with these hospitality industries and food businesses, such as restaurants, hotels, cafes, bakeries, markets, and fruit distributors. So we pick up their food in the arranged schedule, we run a quality check, we sort and pack them if necessary, and send them right away to people in need. Not only rescue the food from the food businesses, we also rescue the food from big events like weddings, seminars, conference, festivals, you name it, that used to involve huge amount of food. So in this case, we also have a partnership with the caterings and wedding organizers. So people basically request us to pick up the excess food from their events. And believe it or not, we used to rescue up to 500 portions of food from one single lavish wedding in Surabaya. Yeah, that's literally enough to feed one more wedding, right? Yeah. So yeah, when it comes to Saturday night, when people usually have a romantic candlelight dinner, we usually spend it on standby mode, waiting for the request. Pretty sad romantic life, huh? Okay, so Garda Pangan is now mostly run by the volunteers that share the same vision toward food waste. We currently have 30 core volunteers that understand thoroughly our standard operating procedures, or SOP, of food handling, including the food safety and hygiene aspect. But we also provide the opportunity for the public to join in our daily food rescue activity through online registration. And as of today, I'm very proud to say that we are blessed to be surrounded by more than 400 kind-hearted public volunteers joining the movement. Thank you. So now, where are the food distributed to? We currently have 110 locations of beneficiaries in Surabaya. Each one of them has been carefully assessed and surveyed and thoughtfully selected based on our target criteria. For example, poor families, homeless, disabled, elderly persons, shelter, foster care, and so on. And we also try to send the food even to the most isolated locations. As you can see from the picture, that we have to cross the river by boat for an hour to reach the locations. Can you guess where this is? It's Kepentingan in Sidoarjo. And we also try to support the communities during post-disaster situation in which access to food are usually very limited. This is when there was a fire, a big fire, in Scavenger Village in Surabaya. And this is when we distribute the food to the people guarding the church 24/7 during terror of Surabaya bombing last year. Here are some more pictures. Here are the pictures of one of our wedding food rescue, the event food rescue from one of the conference. This is gleaning of the ugly fruits from the fruit farms in Sidoarjo. And here's one of our soup kitchen or dapur umum. Okay, speaking about quantitative impact, since June 2017, during 2 years of operations, we have rescued 83,000 portions of food, or approximately 12 tons of potential food waste, and served 71,000 of beneficiaries, and still counting. But our main achievement is not the numbers. It is seeing the happy face of the people that can hardly afford decent meal 3 times a day. Or seeing the kids screaming and greeting us from afar, seeing the food coming. It is countless of thank yous and sometimes prayers that they whisper on our ears. All for a simple meal that we may take for granted. This being said, some of you may have this question in mind. By running its operation, relying on food waste produced, do we actually wish for more food waste so that we can distribute more food and continue running? Right? Well, the answer is absolutely no. Our movement exists today to help tackling the existing food waste that is still considered as a necessary evil in the hospitality industries and food businesses, in which throwing away the excess food is considered as the fastest and the cheapest and the easiest option for them. But our main vision, as I mentioned earlier, is to reduce the food waste from its very source. So our service is called a sustainable and responsible food waste management. We help assisting our partners in hospitality industries and food businesses by rescuing their excess food. And we also send them the monthly report of the complete reports of the social impact data, environmental impact data, and lastly, the food waste data. And do not underestimate the power of this data. What we found out is sometimes the food businesses are so accustomed to produce the food waste, they are turning a blind eye on their food wastage and start overlooking it as something normal. One of the success stories that I'm very proud of is when we assist one of the biggest bakery in Surabaya that used to produce hundreds until 120 portions of excess food per day. So when they look at our monthly report, the accumulated number of the food waste produced, which is 3,000 until 4,000 portions per month, turned to shock them. It was indeed a big number, and of course it was not good economically for the company. And it was so eye-opening for them that they started taking this into consideration and started taking some internal measures to review their operation cycle. And the result was amazing. They might not be able to completely eliminate the number, but they did manage to cut down drastically to only 20 until 30 portions per day. Now, if you are the bakery owner, imagine the number of savings that you've made. So, to us, this is our main achievement. And this is what we strive to continue doing in the future. And I do hope that this becomes a new normal in food businesses practice, and maybe, just maybe, one day Garda Pangan will no longer be required. And I will be happily retired when the day comes. Okay, but one thing that I need to highlight is food waste is a real issue. It is predicted that in a couple years, we will face a food scarcity. And given all the negative impacts from the food waste, it is time for all individuals to take part of the movement. One simple guidance that we can all follow through is called food recovery hierarchy. It shows us the order of priority on how best to tackle the existing food supply and keeping it from ending up in our landfill. So, the most preferable action is to, of course, reduce food waste from the very beginning. And how do we do that? First, start planning our meal so that we can buy and prepare the ingredients just in the right amount. Put our food in the best arrangement possible in the fridge that can actually make them last longer. You can Google this. And save your leftover to enjoy later. Keep an eye on your expiration and best before date. And by the way, these two dates are different. And please make sure that when you eat outside, you request the portion based on the amount that you think you can finish. And lastly, do not mind eating ugly produce or ugly fruits and vegetables that might not be in the aesthetically perfect condition, but actually has the same nutrition. By doing these simple steps, we should be able to reduce the significant amount of our food waste. But should you have any left over, the next priority, based on the chart, is to donate to people, so that it can serve its initial purpose to feed human. So you can share it with your friends, neighbors, families, or the people in need around you. And once the food is no longer edible, the next priority is to feed it to animals. And lastly, to compost bin. So, next time you have your food ready before your eyes, please do remember that it takes a lot of work, a tremendous effort from the farmers, the cattlemen, the drivers, the chefs, the waiters, the traders, the retailers, just to serve you the food. Not to mention millions of people starving out there. The very least thing that you can do is to simply finish your food. Thank you.